Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ben and Jacob Sports Show right here on Off the Air Productions. I'm Ben Kaysen here with Jacob Sandoval, getting ready to talk some sports. Big week in sports. A lot of stuff going on right now. But first, let's take a moment to introduce ourselves to some of our newer listeners. And Jacob, why don't you start with you? Why do you like sports so much, man?
Ben, it's not a mystery that a young black man like me obviously did sports in his high school prime. And, ever since I did sports in high school, I just fell in love with them. And ever since then, it's just been one of those things where originally I wasn't super into what the pros were doing because me, with my little high school mind, thought I was going to be a pro and I wouldn't have to worry about that. But no, I just love watching football, watching basketball. Baseball is interesting to me, especially what's happening right now. It's interesting, but I've always enjoyed sports. I've always, once I got into college and found that I was interested in broadcasting, I study sports like crazy.
Absolutely.
Just looking game by game, stat by stat. And, I just love sports.
Dude, I also love sports. I've been doing it for a really long time now, which is kind of funny to talk about. I've been doing sports media stuff probably since my freshman year of high school. I really want to do sports broadcasting, call football, call baseball, call basketball. I wasn't the most athletic guy, but I really liked playing sports growing up. And like you said, now that I'm into it, it's a lot of fun. The real team that inspired me into loving sports is the Texas Rangers of like 2010, 2011. So I was 11 or 12 years old at that point. And they went on these miracle runs deep into the playoffs, yada, yada, yada. They didn't win, but at the same time, that was what kind of inspired me to see the power of sports, to bring a whole city together behind a team, and why sports is such a great thing to cover. So I've been doing a lot of sports coverage stuff since then. I called games in high school for my high school, Wright High School here in Colorado. And then I worked for Greenhorn Valley View. It's a newspaper. I ended up working for the CSU Pueblo Today at the college, and I was a sports editor, did a lot of sports writing there. But then most importantly, I did a lot of radio stuff recently. And so me and you, of course, were a part of Rev 89's radio, and we did the Press Box show. We did the Versus podcast. We did a lot of stuff like that while also getting experience calling baseball, basketball, and football. So we did a lot of stuff there, and we both really kept keeping up, specifically me when it comes to mainly baseball is the thing that I really know, but I love to give my 2 cents and everything else. And nothing's more fun than, talking about sports with another guy and just having that nice common ground. And I think that's why sports is such a valuable thing right now. A lot of stuff going on. Sports can be that common ground for people.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Ben. And, sports is one of those things where you can just shut your brain off and just enjoy it, or you can really just turn on those brain cells all the way and just key in and focus and just dive into this fantasy land. Yeah. What is football stats? What is basketball stats? What is baseball stats? Like, you can dive into it, look at the culture, and just engulf yourself in information.
Absolutely. I agree. And it's just so much fun to cover. So I'm really excited to be doing some of this stuff here, Jacob, for the Ben and Jacob Sports Show. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to get into it because there's a lot of stuff going on in sports, and I'd love to give my 2 cents on it. So let's start off with kind of the big thing right now in sports, which is the Super Bowl is coming up this week. Super Bowl 54 in Miami, Florida. Big game between Kansas City and San Francisco. But before we get into who we think wins the game, yeah, it could be huge. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers and the big game against San Francisco. We'll talk about these championship games and what we saw. Jacob, what did you see from that Green Bay Packers team whenever they lost that game, 37-20, the final?
I saw a disaster. What was it? They were down 27 at halftime.
Whew.
That's the Green Bay Packers. I think the fans of the Green Bay Packers would agree with me. They're a roller coaster. They're all over the place, and you don't know what's going to happen to that franchise because, getting to this championship is big. They're a talented group of individuals, but watching that game, you just knew there's no way this team was going to make it to the Super Bowl. No way.
That might have been the worst 13-win team I have ever seen. I mean, that team won 13 games, had a lot of holes. They kind of the opposite of the Dallas Cowboys this year, where for the Cowboys, I was like, how are you losing these games? for the Packers, I felt like, how are you winning these games? I didn't think that my eye test was, giving them as much credit as everybody else was. But in the 2 games against the San Francisco 49ers, Jacob, they were outscored by 50 in the first halves. That's insane. I mean, you can't get down that much to that team. But I think a lot of it comes down to, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is still the playmaking star he used to be. We used to go back and forth on this, Jacob, but I think that this year he really got carried by a solid defense and a great run game. Didn't have to do much, and in the playoffs when he did have to do much, he fell short in this game.
And I feel like, it's a combination of things because, yes, I think Aaron Rodgers is a little bit overhyped. I do think he's very talented, but I have to look at that offensive line, and they did not play at all on that championship game.
Yeah.
Like he was struggling to essentially, I forgot who said it, but they were saying like Aaron Rodgers was not looking to score. He was looking not to get sacked every single play. He was looking to make sure his linemen were doing their job before he was able to look out and see what the defense was doing in the backfield. It's unfortunate for the Packers that they almost had all the pieces and they had almost all the luck. But at the end of the day, a bigger, better team is going to take that luck away.
Yeah, here's the thing about the 49ers. They do something in football that might be the most demoralizing thing to another team. They take people and they move them. And what I'm talking about is that O-line and D-line, both of them. There's no tricks. There's no high flying speed. What they're out there to do is they're going to move you off of your spot. And it's a demoralizing thing as the game goes on. And the Packers were just getting shoved all over the field by the 49ers. And we saw it in this game because San Francisco ran the ball better in the playoffs than I think I've seen a team in my whole life. I mean, they had 180 yards at halftime of running with Raheem Mostert. And they lost their number 2 running back early in that game. The 49ers really proved that they were on a different level than the Packers. We can get on Aaron Rodgers a lot. I think a lot of the Packers' issues also have to come down to he really did only have one solid weapon to throw to. But at the same time, like you said, he did not have time to throw. But that's more credit to that Niners D-line than it is to the Packers O-line at detriment. Really interesting game, though, Jacob. I mean, the 49ers, it felt like this game and the Vikings game, I sat and watched those games, and they seemed to very early on set the tone and take the hope away from the opponent. I mean, like at no point in either of those games did I really feel like the road team might pull off that upset. And that's credit to the relentless 49ers team. And they're going to be a tough team to beat in the Super Bowl.
Well, and I think what happened is after that first half, the Green Bay gave up. Like what I look at Jimmy's stats, and he only threw 8 passes.
Yeah.
And that just tells me like the offensive coordinator, the coach, they're saying this team is over us. They don't want to play anymore. We don't have to risk our guys' arm. We can just hand it off every single time, let our guys do what they do best, move the ball down the field, and that was it.
Yeah, that's how it was. I mean, the 49ers played very well, and they are on to the Super Bowl. Now let's talk about the Titans and the Chiefs. Jacob, Tennessee, what an amazing story. I really don't like them very much because they were able to beat my Patriots in a couple games ago. That sucked. But then they went out and beat the Ravens. It was a Derrick Henry power offense. What went wrong for the Titans in this game?
This is the thing. The Titans were the team of destiny. But you know what? The Chiefs, they're that team that can just throw everything out of whack for you. And when you look at what the Tennessee Titans have and what the Kansas City Chiefs have, I think it was a perfect storm for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Titans coming into this game with a lot of confidence. Honestly, this is the thing. I was looking at any 2 of the teams that they faced, the Patriots and the Ravens, being right there with Kansas City. I thought those 2 teams were going to compete. And we saw last year what happened with the Patriots and Kansas City. The Patriots were able to just everybody thought it was going to be a high-scoring game. The Patriots said, nope, we came to play, and threw Kansas City off their game plan. But Tennessee, they're the ones who got thrown off their game plan this time around. And I think that's going to happen continuously. Like, I don't know. It's just an unfortunate thing to see because, it looked like they were the team of destiny. That's what Pat McAfee was saying all time, the team of destiny.
Mm-hmm.
But this Kansas City Chiefs team, no joke. No joke.
Yeah, speed kills. We saw it in this game. I mean, the Chiefs have just so much speed on both sides of the ball. Credit to the Chiefs defense. They stopped Derrick Henry. They manned up and did a really good job against him. I think he had 68 total rush yards on like 20 touches. That's pretty solid in that game. But the thing I look at is the Titans' game plan. You said their game plan got thrown off. Well, their game plan sucked. Straight up, it sucked. This is nothing to take away from the Titans' run. It was fantastic. I didn't think it was going to do it. This team did a lot of good things. But in this game, their consistent strategy was we're going to rush 3, drop everyone back, but still give the wide receivers free releases. What this means is Mahomes has time to dance around and run around the field, and then guys are fast enough to still get open down the field. And they wouldn't waver from the strategy. Dean Pease, the defensive coordinator for the Titans, he would not waver from this strategy. It blew my mind the entire game. And if you look at the stats of this game, I was reading this, whenever the Titans blitzed, they blitzed him, I think, 10 times in that game total. Patrick Mahomes only had about 13 total pass yards. All of the rest of them were whenever he had time to sit back and throw. It's just crazy to me that they didn't bring the pressure. This is why I think this Super Bowl is going to be interesting, because San Francisco will be able to bring the pressure. The Titans just refused to do it in this game, and that's why Mahomes torched him, I think. He had time, and guys got open.
Yeah, it's a mystery. Like, when you see these coaches and these coordinators make these decisions that don't make any sense, and it happens like almost every team, every single year, like just a big decision is made. Like, I think the perfect team to compare this to is the Cowboys. Like, the Cowboys just go in with a game plan and do not diverge off that game plan. And they try to rely on their guys. But when your game plan isn't working, you got to switch that up. And I think that's what Tennessee failed to do. And I think that's what the Cowboys continues. Well, they're going to figure it out now because they got a new coach, but that was a huge problem for the Cowboys.
And the Chiefs have a lot of really good players, and I know that it's a risk to blitz him because that means you have to go one-on-one with Kelce or one-on-one with Hill. But like you mentioned there, Jacob, change it up. Give them something else. If you're getting beaten over and over again, switch it up a little bit. Yep. That's all I'm saying.
I totally agree.
All right. Go for it.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about the big game.
All right, we are raring to go. Let's talk about the Super Bowl. San Francisco, Kansas City, coming up next week. Jacob, first off, what is your score prediction for this game and why?
Score prediction. So last year we had a kind of boring Super Bowl.
It was not boring.
A lot of good defense. A lot of good defense, but hey, I want to see points on the board, and I hope Kansas City and San Francisco can bring that this time around. I'm going to say 35-29. Kansas City.
All right.
Wow, I got the Chiefs on this one.
Okay. Now I'm going to go the other way. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than people think. And the main reason I think that is I think the San Francisco defense has the tools to slow down the Chiefs. And on the other side, I think that the San Francisco offense has the tools to slow down the whole game whenever they have it and keep Mahomes on the sideline. That's the best defense. Mahomes is going to make his plays. But I think San Francisco's going to be able to get pressure, and with their really athletic zone secondary, I think that they're going to be able to give them some problems. The question is going to be, can Mahomes stay alive long enough to find guys open in those deep zones? I think if he can, it's going to be a tough game for San Fran, but I'm going to bet that the San Francisco 49ers can get some pressure inside. So talking about this game, I'm going to take San Francisco to win the Super Bowl 27-24. Lower scoring. I think San Francisco pulls away right at the end. Jimmy Garoppolo makes a couple big throws to George Kittle. George Kittle wins the Super Bowl MVP with 2 touchdown receptions. I think that Kyle Shanahan is the big difference maker on offense. I think he's a smart play caller. I think that the defense, like I mentioned, they're going to run this really nice zone defense along with getting pressure in Mahomes' face. Going to be a lot tougher for the Chiefs to pick them apart than they did the Titans. I think San Francisco pulls out this Super Bowl win, going from 4 straight 10-loss seasons to a Super Bowl title. That would be really impressive.
This is what I'm thinking, Ben. I think that this Kansas City offensive line, they're going to need to step it up. But I think they're going to do that. They're going to do exactly that. They're going to do what they've been doing all year long and giving Patrick Mahomes time. I think that's going to be imperative to the win. I think they're going to give him the time he needs. And you got to look at Patrick Mahomes' weapons, man. There is, like, you can look at what do you call it? San Francisco's D-back. What's his name?
Oh, Sherman?
Yeah, Sherman. Yeah. You can look at him, but he can only cover one guy.
The San Francisco scheme's interesting, though, because he doesn't have to cover one guy. He has to cover one zone, because that's the way that the San Francisco 49ers are going to be able to offset the speed disadvantage, is because they run these deep zones. It makes it so much tougher for a guy like a Tyreek Hill or a Mecole Hardman to get that separation, because if he beats one guy out of one zone, he steps into another zone. The big way they're going to be able to beat him might be over the top, but even then, it's going to be really tough.
I don't know, man. I just look at the speed of Tyreek Hill. And I know Richard Sherman is just a great player, but I think this is going to be a battle of the Titans. Like, these two guys are going to pop off, and whoever wins that battle is going to be the key to getting points on the board. And then also, I look at that San Francisco offense, and I like them, but you know what? I think they're going to be too eager to score, and that's going to lead into a couple mistakes. I'm definitely going to see that, because I look at other high-scoring games, because I definitely feel like this is going to be a high-scoring game. I look at other high-scoring games where they barely make it out alive of these games, like versus the Rams. With the Rams, high-scoring game, 31-34. Oh, no, they won that game. Excuse me.
Yeah, they won it, but it was intense. Yeah.
Yeah. But I looked at the Saints as well. They were able to win that one, but they kept it really tight and close. I think when you have an Andy Reid on the other side of the field, I don't think you're going to come up top on that one.
Here's a hot take. I'm not crazy about Andy Reid in the playoffs. I think Andy Reid is the best coach in the NFL over the first 8 games of the season. And then people understand his new tricks, and he runs into a bit of a wall. I liked what they've been doing recently.
Look at the playoff wins.
Look who they play. And they avoided the Patriots and the Ravens. I'm not giving him a ton of credit for being the Texans and the Titans.
The Titans beat the Ravens and the Patriots.
Yeah, they did, by running the ball up the middle 35 times and turning the clock. It's impressive. I like what they did, but you have to admit that the Titans and the Texans is not as much of a challenge as having to go through a New England or a Baltimore.
Well, Tennessee would beg to differ.
Yes, they would. Can't argue with that. Yeah, I'm not to take away from Tennessee, but I just don't know what Andy Reid is going to have to do against a defense that has the personnel to really lock down his guys and get pressure at the same time. It's going to be tough. And Andy Reid, as you know, no Super Bowl wins. He's been a coach since the early 2000s. No Super Bowl wins. I don't think this is the year he breaks it. I don't think it is.
This is, man. You watch and you'll see this Super Bowl games are going to pop off. There's going to be touchdown after touchdown after field goal after field goal. And, you know, Andy Reid's just going to have to outsmart the 49ers. That's all there is to it.
I just can't see it, because I think the Chiefs offense is basically like the Packers 2.0. They're built pretty similar, in my opinion. Athletic QB who can get open, throw it deep, really dominant number one receiver, a lot of reliance on the tight end, a running back who can make plays. I think the Chiefs have better than the Packers at all of those spots, but it is the same kind of scheme, and the Packers had just nothing against the 49ers. The 49ers defense, I think you're underrating them. I think they are the difference in this game.
Well, but I also think that the offensive line for that Kansas City Chiefs is definitely going to be key. If they can't block during the Super Bowl, then forget about it. It's game over. The 49ers have the title. Like, I don't care what the Chiefs defense can do. I definitely think if the offensive line for the Chiefs cannot protect Pat Mahomes for more than 3 seconds or 5 seconds, then they're going to be in big trouble.
So, who's your Super Bowl MVP then, Jacob?
Pat Mahomes.
All right.
By a mile. He's gonna throw about 20 miles by the end of the game.
Throw about 20 miles. I think that you're going to be surprised by San Francisco's defense this week. I think you're going to be surprised. I've been really impressed by them. I mean, they shut down the Vikings. They shut down the Packers. I'm interested to see what they do against the Chiefs, but it's going to be a really interesting Super Bowl either way. And I'm going to be really happy for the coach for either team, because Kyle Shanahan, of course, he was in the Super Bowl 3 years ago as the offensive coordinator of the Falcons. We all know how that went against New England. I mean, they just couldn't quite finish the deal, 28-3, and they dropped it.
Embarrassed.
Yeah,
I was embarrassed.
And Andy Reid, really the narrative his whole career now has been he can't win it in the big game. So one of those two is going to be able to kind of get that monkey off their back and win this game. I think it's going to be San Fran.
I can't wait to see Mahomes up there accepting the MVP award. Andy Reid crying, saying, "My boy, we did it."
My boy. All right, let's get into our quick takes, Jacob. This is some stuff that we saw in sports this week. We have a passionate take about. I'll start off. Richard Sherman and Darrelle Revis had a bit of a feud this week on Twitter immediately following San Fran's title victory. There was this play where Sherman got beat deep, and Darrelle Revis called him out that Sherman is not a man-to-man corner. We were just talking about this, actually, that Sherman is a zone corner while Revis was a strict man-to-man corner. Revis responded with, "You're saying that from your couch." And this is a weird time for Darrelle Revis to, attack Richard Sherman, if I'm being honest. I think that Darrelle Revis played well enough. I think people forget how good he was. That I think he does. He's one of those guys who can call out whoever he wants, in my opinion. But this just wasn't the time to do it. It looked like, well, back in my day, I would have been great out there instead of you. And it came out in poor taste. But here's the thing that I want to say, though. I think that he's right. I think he's right that Darrelle Revis, I think there's a little bit more skill in literally all you have to do for game plan is, all right, you've got 17 and cover him the entire game. And that was a big part of Darrelle Revis and what he did, and that was why he was Revis Island in his prime. But what Richard Sherman does is really impressive too with his zones, but it's just not quite the same. I agree with Revis. It's not quite the same. But I will say this was not the time for Darrelle Revis to make this take.
Oh, definitely not. Especially since you're looking at a guy, you're trying to talk to this guy who's in the Super Bowl right now.
Mm-hmm.
A guy who's super talented. He knows he's super talented. He knows he's part of the success. And he knows that he's in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to try to punch up right now. Like, that's all he's doing.
I agree. All right, Jacob, what are your thoughts on another quick take here?
Okay. My quick take is going to have to be about the Patrick Mahomes GOAT talk.
Oh.
Why are people talking about this? The kid had 2 good seasons and 2 winning seasons. I don't think by any means you can tell me that somebody is a GOAT by 2 winning seasons. And if we're going all the way to that, then I would say Joe Flacco is the GOAT.
What?
Because he had at least 1 good season, right? He got a Super Bowl. Yeah. No, I think it's just ridiculous to have this man in the GOAT talks. Like, people saying if he ended his career right now, it'd be one of the top 10 quarterbacks the league has ever seen. No. I don't think that's even possible. I think you have to let these players develop over time. I think 5 years down the line, then we can have that conversation about Pat Mahomes. Unless the next 2 years in a row he wins the Super Bowl. Then we can start talking about it right away. Yeah. But right now, I don't think so. I think it's ridiculous that all these media groups are talking about Pat Mahomes GOAT ? Of course not. You know the facts. You know the truth. Stop trying to confuse people.
Yeah, he's really talented, but I think you hit the nail on the head there. You're kind of just prisoner at the moment. I think that would be the way I'd describe this right now. I'm not crazy about it either, but he'll have to prove it. I don't think he will. We'll find out. Okay, so I'm very passionate about this next thing I want to talk about. For those of you who follow Major League Baseball, the Houston Astros have been involved in quite a bit of controversy around the league. The Houston Astros, we found out that their 2017 title was influenced by some of this cheating where they had cameras set up and trash cans that were begging them to tell them what pitch was coming. Mike Fiers, he came out and was like, all right, this is happening. You got to stop this. Since then, there's been a couple of picks taken away, money taken away, and 3 managers across the league have been fired. But I just want to tell you right now, this has not gone far enough if I'm MLB. This is a massive, massive scandal that we're talking about right here. In baseball, I mean, like, imagine, for those of you who played MLB The Show, it's a video game. You're sitting next to your friend. You're staring at their controller, seeing what pitch is coming. I mean, that's just ruining the integrity of the game. And whenever a sport gets the integrity of their game questioned, typically that signals the end of that sport's reign of being popular. I think that Baseball is in a very critical position right here where they need to come down hard. I mean, really hard. They have to get at the players. They have to get at the team. I'm not saying strip their title, but I think these players have to be hit with big suspensions. I'm talking about Altuve. I'm talking about Bregman. I'm talking about the big name guys that definitely were a part of this thing. They can't tell me they weren't a part of it if they knew what the banging on the trash can meant and the pitch was coming. Don't give me that garbage. I would give all of them big suspensions, maybe even a season or more, because right now MLB needs to set the precedent. We will not let this happen. The integrity of our game will not be broken. It's just crazy to me right now that we're even having to have this discussion. But I think MLB came down a little too soft. And it wasn't even the MLB that fired these managers and stuff. The teams had to do it. MLB only gave them 1 year suspensions. These guys need to get banned from the league. This is a bigger controversy than PEDs. This is bigger than gambling on the games. When you talk about Pete Rose, this is the biggest thing that's happened to baseball since the Black Sox controversy in the 1910s, where the Black Sox, that whole team, they bet all of their money on the Cincinnati Reds winning the World Series, and they went out and they threw it and got all that money, but then they all got banned. This is, in my opinion, on that level. Massive. And I think the MLB is coming down too soft, and we're going to see the ramifications.
You know what, Ben? I think that's a good take. I think when it comes to MLB, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know about this whole big scandal with everything that's going on with the Astros.
Yeah.
The Astros, what they did is ridiculous. They cheated every other team that was out there, every other guy who was out there, by cutting corners, doing things they shouldn't be doing. And I definitely think that's going to be a big problem in the future if they don't put any big punishments. Because what I see now is people getting slapped on the wrist.
Exactly.
And then I feel like one of the big things, like I see throughout baseball history, is people still cheating. Because I think one of the things like the steroids thing, like that whole big scandal, once it came out, you still had people years later still juicing up.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like people are breaking records juiced up, and it's because you gave this one guy a slap on the wrist, and they just don't care.
Dodgers pitcher Alex Wood said this week on Twitter, he said that I would rather face a 300-foot behemoth on PEDs who could hit the ball out easy than a guy who knows what pitch I'm throwing. And I think that's astute right there. This is an interesting spot for MLB. I think that they've got to come down hard. And if I'm a Dodgers fan, if I'm a Yankees fan, I am livid right now. I am livid because that directly took away chances for titles. The Dodgers lost to the Astros in 2017 in the World Series, and then to the Red Sox in 2018. And there's a lot of talk about the Red Sox did the exact same thing with Alex Cora. We don't have proof yet, but if I'm a Dodgers fan, I'm upset. The Yankees lost to the Astros and the Red Sox, and again to the Astros this last year in the playoffs. I think it says something, in my opinion. I'm just going to say it. This last year in the playoffs, the Yankees lost all 4 games at Houston, and they dominated in New York. Apparently, the Astros are only stealing these signs at home. This is big. You've got to come down hard, because once the integrity of your game is called out, why should we watch your game? It's big.
Right.
All right, Jacob, go for it.
All right. So, last thing of the day happened recently. Well, all these things have happened recently, but I'm talking about the Kansas and Kansas State game. There's a big old fight at the end of the game that was a blowout. And I look at this and I think this is ridiculous. Like, these grown people, yes, they're still kids. Yes, they're 18, 19-year-old, but they're grown individuals who decide, you know what, we're just going to start throwing hands at the end of the game, where essentially it doesn't really matter. And at the end, it was just one of those things where, like, Kansas City, or Kansas, and both teams were in the wrong. And I don't know if there's been any punishment handed down yet, but I also think this needs to be big punishment. I look at these two teams and what this kind of means. And I think you should have punishment because you got to set a precedent. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. And you watch the play, and I've been watching it for a while, and it's just like, so what? Like, those are some of those things that you just gotta, like, you get swatted at the end of the game because you stole the ball. Like, it's something you kind of deserve because you're down by 30 points. Just take it, and then the teams just come off the bench, and it was a disaster. So big punishment needs to be coming down. And I think for all the players, like, you got to compose yourself. And by not composing yourself like that, I don't know. I think the whole team needs to be punished.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's definitely a flaw when it comes to coaching, when it comes to management, and for the team. But at the same time, there are brawls that happen. That one was particularly violent. I don't know if you should come down as hard as I think you're saying, but I see where you're coming from, though.
Oh, did you see what happened?
Yeah.
People were getting pushed into that, the stands, where was it? The handicap section?
Yeah.
They were getting pushed, and, like, people were picking up chairs. Like, it was a disaster.
It was a lot. But, I mean, there's brawls in sports all the time. I think that it's not to say it's not a big deal, because I know it's a big deal, but I don't think that it needs to be quite as big of a punishment as you're saying.
I don't know, man.
That's my take. Okay.
Take an L the next game. Yeah, they compose themselves next time.
Ban them from the tournament. Is that what you're saying?
No. Just give them one L. One L.
All right. Okay, so I think that it's interesting for the Hall of Fame. They name the people that are in. Derek Jeter's in, and Larry Walker are in. So congrats to both of them. I think both of them are very deserving of making the Baseball Hall of Fame this week. Derek Jeter finished with 99.7% of the votes, which you have to get 75% to get in. Only one vote away from being a unanimous decision onto the ballot. First off, I think Derek Jeter deserved to be a unanimous decision. There's only been one in history. Mariano Rivera got it a couple years ago. I think, first off, that's kind of wild that there's only been one. But also, I think that Derek Jeter was right about there. He deserved it. He's a ton of hits, stuff like that. But I'm just going to say it. I don't think we're going to get another unanimous decision until Mike Trout. I think that there's going to be a long time in the Hall of Fame until we get to a guy who everybody agrees is a Hall of Famer. I think Adrian Beltre might have an outside chance, but I don't think so. I think he'll be about 85, 90%. I think that Albert Pujols has a chance, but I think people are going to read into these last 6 or 7 years, he's not been good. I think that Ichiro might have a chance, but people are going to say he doesn't have the biggest hit total because he spent the first half of his career in Japan. I think Kershaw might have a chance, but they're going to say he's not that great in the playoffs. There's just things that you can nitpick with everybody that these writers are going to do. And I don't think we're going to have another unanimous pick until Mike Trout enters in whatever year it is. He's been just out of this world, so I'm excited to see about that. But it's interesting. I mean, the unanimous Hall of Famer is something that has only happened once in baseball's 130-year history. It's interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely agree.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about our final segment here this time next year. So January 22nd of 2021. What are people going to be talking about, Jacob?
Patrick Mahomes. I definitely think there's no doubt about it that Patrick Mahomes is a talent for the ages. And I think we're going to see him in this position again where we're going to talk about how many yards he has thrown next year, or we're going to talk about how he's in the Super Bowl again. Those are one of the things. I think those are two possibilities we'll be talking about, because next year I think he's going to break even more records, and then so on and so forth.
Let me ask real quick. If you had one QB to have for the next 10 years and you could choose between Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Deshaun Watson, who do you got?
Man, I would only choose Lamar Jackson just for the entertainment of it all. Because honestly, I want him to continue doing what he's doing in the league.
Yeah.
It's just being this unstoppable force that teams have to adjust to big time. And, that's the thing about Patrick Mahomes is he's a very talented quarterback, but he does not play the same way that Lamar Jackson does. Like Lamar Jackson is a completely different quarterback than Patrick Mahomes.
So you'd take Lamar over Mahomes?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I love me some Lamar.
Okay. I would probably take Mahomes, or, Deshaun Watson's just kind of my pet favorite player right now in the NFL that's kind of young. I might take him, but that's interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, this time next year, you know what we're talking about? Another baseball take, Jacob. Nobody will be elected into the Hall of Fame next year. It is an outstandingly weak class of first-timers coming up, I think. Nothing against these players, by the way. These guys are going to be enshrined in the Hall of Very Good, I would imagine, but they're not going to make the Hall of Fame. You got Mark Burley coming up. You've got it's not much. Torrey Hunter is coming up, but as a whole, there's no real serious contenders to get in the first ballot. We've had a first ballot Hall of Famer each of the last 6 years in baseball. That ends next year. But not only that, I think Curt Schilling, who is 71%, needs to get to 75. I think he'll fall short again. And I think Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens will fall just short again. I think we're going to have nobody because of the controversy surrounding everyone. We'll get into next year. We'll find out in that 10th year of eligibility if Barry Bonds and Clemens can get in. Again, that's down the line, but I think next year we're going to be saying nobody's in the Hall of Fame, and there's going to be no real stuff to talk about when it comes to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Okay, so thank you so much for listening to Ben and Jacob Sports. This has been Ben and Jacob. We've been talking about sports. You can check out the rest of the stuff that we've been doing right here on Off the Air Productions. Jacob, tell us a little bit about the Voiced Opinion.
Well, the Voiced Opinion is just three guys talking about whatever they want. That's what the Voiced Opinion is. That's what we try to make it be. And, this week we did a little thing about Star Wars. And, yeah, that's me, Jacob. Ben is on there, and also our good friend JSB, Jacob Cisneros Baca. He's on there. We're talking Star Wars and what we want to see in the future. I love the Voice Opinion because I can voice my opinion as loud as I want.
All right. Yeah.
And I just have a little update. It's going to put a timestamp on this video, but I don't really care. Ben, we just hit 100 likes on Facebook.
Oh, that's big news. Big news.
Timestamp it.
Timestamp. Ready to go. 10 years in the future. You check it out. Now we're at 103. That's how far we've gone. That's awesome.
Sure.
All right. Well, yeah, I've enjoyed doing this show a lot, Ben and Jacob Sports. You got to keep an eye out for all the rest of the stuff that Off the Air Productions is going to be getting out. We're going to be working on a news segment. We'll be working on some other stuff. So be sure to keep an eye on us here on Facebook. You can check us out on Spotify. We're on Spotify now. You can find Off the Air Productions as well on YouTube. And then, Jacob, tell us about the website and what's going to be on that.
So you can go look at the website, and that website is offtheairproductions.wordpress. Excuse me, let me say that again. offtheairproductions.wordpress.com. And on that website, we're going to be just posting our opinions. It's going to be basically based off of what kind of content we make. So we're going to have news content, sports content. Like right now, I'm going to write an article about Star Wars, and then probably an article about Kansas City, because they're my pick, and I'm going to tell you why. It's all there if you need more explanation.
That's right. And Jacob's a writer, so check that out. He is a baller when it comes to writing stuff. All right.
I'm all ready to go.
The pen is mightier than the sword when you talk about Jacob Sandoval. So thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. For Ben and Jacob, have a great rest of your day. If you want something for us to talk about here at Ben and Jacob Sports, leave it in the comment section. Give us a like and go check out our stuff. Have a good one. For Ben and Jacob, Niners win the Super Bowl. I'm just telling you.